Hey, this is Max92, and welcome back to another tryout. Today's tryout is another little special episode. This is the SNK triple feature versus episode. I don't know exactly what I'm going to title it yet. Some combination of those things. The SNK fighting game triple feature versus Battle Royale. I don't know. There's a lot of words to put in this title, and I haven't figured out how to organize them yet. But that's what it is. The three games we're talking about today are
Garo, Mark of the Wolves,
Geo Battle Colosseum,
and
the King of Fighters 13.
We're going to start from oldest to youngest, but we'll get a little background on me. I play a lot of fighting games for some reason, but I'm not particularly good at them. But I don't have really any experience with SNK fighting games in particular. Most of my experiences with Mortal Kombat or Tekken or Street Fighter, the sort of major fighting games. More recently, over the last several years, you've seen me talk about it if you watch my channel. I've played Injustice 2 a lot, even the first Injustice quite a bit. That's sort of my background in fighting games. I know quite a bit about the technical terminology, and I know quite a bit about the genre, and I've played quite a bit of games in the genre. But I'm not, like, good. I'm not good in any way. I'm, okay. Passable at, maybe. So to start with, I'm going to talk about Garo, Mark of the Wolves. This is a game, I think it was, like, 1999. I'm playing the Xbox 360 port through backwards compatibility on the Xbox Series X. And that's the case with all three of these, playing an Xbox 360 port on the Xbox Series X via backwards compatibility. This game is very obviously the oldest of them. It feels the most like a classic arcade fighter. It's got a sort of shorter character list. This game is the fastest and the hardest for me of the three games talking about today. It's very satisfying, and the matches go very quickly, but I'm really bad at playing particularly fast fighting games. So I got stuck on one of the characters. I'll play the clip if instead of saying it. One of the things about this game that is unique that I like is the TOP, or the tactical offense position feature, where you sort of pick a section of your health bar, either the beginning, the middle, or the end part, where you have like a little bit of an advantage, kind of. I don't know the exact things that it does, but it does allow you to do like a special move and that sort of stuff. And it gives you a little bit of more tactical choice in how you play the game, because like, do you want to put it at the beginning, you want to put it at the end, you want to put it in the middle, like, and what does your opponent do? You sort of pick them at the same time, so you don't get to see. So that's interesting to think about for me, like how the little tactical thing. I didn't really mess around with it too much though. I mostly ended up just putting it like at the end of my health bar, but I did play around a little bit here and there. One of the things about the game that I think are pretty cool is that the boss characters are sort of hidden on the character select screen. They are there and selectable. They're just sort of hidden. So if you're not, paying attention, you're not looking for them, you wouldn't find them. They're sort of off the end. So the whole character select screen cycles. So if you continue going to one direction, it will cycle to the other end. But there are two characters in between the two ends, and those are the secret, like the hidden boss characters. So I got to play with those a little bit too, but I'm just not good at the speed of a fighting game. The last little category I have here is visuals, and visually, you can tell it's old, but it's still like within the realm of feeling like a stylistic choice. It's a little too simple in its presentation during the fights, just because character faces just look like black boxes on some of the characters. So, like, personally, if I were making this choice stylistically, I would put a little more detail in the pixel art, but this is also a bit of an older game. It was on, like, I think the Dreamcast originally and an arcade machine, so it probably could have done more, but it's fine. It still sort of feels like a stylistic visual choice rather than just being old and outdated, you know. Next, I'm going to talk about NeoGeo Battle Colosseum. I don't remember. I think this one was 2005 when this game came out. And this is a crossover of SNK and NeoGeo franchises, but I don't really know much about them. So I don't really know a lot of the characters. It's like Fatal Fury, King of Fighters, Samurai Shodown, and Metal Slug, I think, and a handful of other ones. I have not played a lot of SNK games, so I don't actually know much about the characters. But it's a fighting game. It doesn't matter that much. This game is the slowest of the three, but that's sort of what I'm used to an extent, having played a lot of Injustice 2, which is also generally a fairly slow fighting game. And both of the Injustice games are fairly slow fighting games. One of the things that I noticed about the original Injustice is that Scorpion was the fastest character on the whole roster, and so I tended to play Scorpion because since he was faster than everyone else, he just sort of had an advantage, I felt. This game, I think, most of the characters, I tried to play a lot of the characters, and they seem to mostly be a bit more balanced speed-wise. However, this boss that I fought cheats, and I'm sure of it. I'm sure a lot of video game, fighting game bosses particularly cheat. So, but this one, I believe, cheats, because I don't think you can input the moves to do these attacks as fast. I don't think it's possible. I'm also not good at fighting games, so maybe it is possible, I'm just bad, but I think this boss cheats. Anyway, this is a 2v2 for the most part, like a multi-character fighting game, and I like the character swapping here. It's not like it doesn't seem as intricate as something like a Marvel vs. Capcom, or specifically, in my experience, Marvel vs. Capcom 3 or Dragon Ball FighterZ, which are both games with those sort of quick assist character swapping 3v3 type systems. I do like this one. It's a lot more simpler, but it is sort of like swapping out your character when one gets low, so the health. I like the strategy of it here quite a bit. This game also has the sort of hidden boss characters. There are 3 that are between the ends, like the edges, and then there's one in the middle. And the one in the middle is interesting because it counts as 2 slots, it seems. So if you pick it, you don't get to pick a second. That didn't really help me at all, but it is pretty interesting. I like the sort of hidden secret character, so hidden secret boss character, whatever situation on the character select screen, so that like if you're in the know, you can find them and pick them or whatever. That's kind of cool to me. Visually, however, I think this one is the weakest in that like the 3D rendered backgrounds sort of clash with the 2D looking kind of sprite based character models, in my opinion. I did get used to it as I played, and it bothered me less. But I think it just made the whole game sort of clash visually a little bit in a way that could have been avoided, in my opinion. The last game on the docket for today is The King of Fighters 13. And this is the most recent of the games. It came out in like 2010-ish, somewhere around there. And the combat speed is somewhere in between the two, and I think it's my favorite. As I mentioned, I think that Garo is a bit too fast, and I think that despite being used to that speed, NeoGeo Battle Colosseum and other games I think are that speed, like the Injustice series, I found are a bit too slow. So this sort of strikes a balance somewhere in between that I prefer. Sadly, I don't like how the multiple character system in this game is implemented. There is no sort of switching between them. They sort of count as your 3 life bars. So you fight 1v1, and then whoever dies, their second character comes up. And you fight 1v1, and whoever dies, their third character comes up. And if you defeat the third character, you win the match. I just think that makes the game very slow because you sort of get a, you win, and then load in a new thing, and then you get in like a versus ladder and an arcade ladder, you get a new sort of fighting intro, and it just slows the game down a lot. Whereas when in NeoGeo Battle Colosseum, if I'm remembering correctly, if a character died, you just switch characters immediately. And I think that's a better system than this one. One of the things that's majorly different about this one is it has a very prominent story mode that is separate from its arcade ladder. My problem with this story mode is that it's presented with like visual novel cutscenes, but there's not a lot of sound, and you can't skip individual dialogue boxes. It's like a regular cutscene with no voice acting, minimal music and sound effects, and you just get these text boxes that you can't skip, or you skip the whole cutscene. And I find that to be exceptionally boring. I think it's the most boring way you could do something like this. So, not sure why that was the way they chose to do it. Visually, however, I think this one looks the best. It has both 2D, well, sprite-like backgrounds with sprite-like characters, and I think it meshes, but it's also more modern visual style, so the sprites are more detailed. In the character select screen, it's got sort of character CGs, but I think the most important part is how it looks in the arenas with the characters. So having character CGs in the character select isn't as distracting as having a different type of background medium and foreground medium. To that end, I think all three of them passed the tryout. They all have sort of benefits and disadvantages to where I could understand if you preferred one differently over the other. The main reason that I've picked these three is that I was originally going to do this tryout on Garo, Mark of the Wolves, and I realized that I have two additional SNK fighting games that I just have from like Xbox Gold, Live Gold, or whatever. So I figured I'd just toss them all together, mark more games off my list of having played them, and have a good time that way, get a little special episode. If I have to pick a favorite of these three, I think my favorite overall is probably The King of Fighters 13. Like I mentioned, I think it plays the best, and I think it looks the best. Though it might just be because I could actually make my way through a versus ladder for the most part. I did get stuck, I think, in story mode or something, but like the story mode kind of sucks in this game. It's not like, I'm not gonna really get into it too much. It's just sort of not. I wouldn't recommend it because you sort of get character sets. You don't get to really pick your characters, and the narrative presentation is boring. I just play an arcade ladder, so it might just be because it was the one I was the best at. That's why it's my favorite. But it was my favorite. So that's the video. There's the tryout. I tried out 3 games today. Ooh, we're getting whatever. I don't know where I'm going with that. So, you got a description, find my links to all my places. Patreon, I got my Redbubble shop down there for real now. Twitter, my Discord server, all the social media, all the everything down in the description. Like the video, like it, just like it. You didn't. Subscribe to the video if you want to keep with this and more shows. I do wrap-ups periodically. I got this and the covers weekly. Other periodic videos. We'll get a video about this thing, I believe, this upcoming Saturday. So since I said it out loud, I guess I have to keep myself to it. Comment, share, subscribe. I think I already said. Do the things. Anyway, thank you so much for watching. I'll see you next time. Bye.
Continue?
Game over.